Hello and welcome to the CDO Magazine interview series. I am Susan Wilson. I'm with Informatica. I'm the Group Vice President of the Solutions team. Today, I have the pleasure of talking with Maggie Hubble. She is the Vice President of Data and Digital Transformation. Thank you so much, Maggie, for joining us today.
Absolutely.
Okay, wonderful. Let's go ahead and get started. In our recent global survey of chief data officers, more than 2 in 3 data leaders are forecasting an increase in their data management investments. What are some of the top business objectives that are driving your investments in data management?
Thank you. The top business objectives are basically around recognizing and understanding who our customers are and how we can make our customers successful. Obviously, that ties to revenue generation, it ties to NPS scores and things of that nature, but it's really driving that return on an investment at the foundational level, which is data. So at the business objective level, you're not necessarily going to see things jumping off the page about improving our data quality or anything like that, but it's relative to how do we support and better align with our customers where they're at today, but also innovating with them and growing with them in the future. And the foundation to that is getting your data straight, really getting your data at the quality where you're not asking multiple times around, what is the account name? What are the key contacts that we need to be in constant conversation with and things of that nature. So the foundation is within that data around, you can call it account, customer, client, whatever the nomenclature is for your business, but fundamentally, it's around getting it right and maintaining it over time, right? Because data evolves, people change, contacts and things like that. So that's the biggest challenge, but also the biggest business objective that aligns to data.
Yeah, Maggie, so spot on. And in fact, getting that data foundation right is so important, and making sure that your data strategy priorities and investments are aligned to that. What has been your process for getting that alignment?
So really, it's deriving a data strategy. And within that data strategy, the key component to any business is, why would I invest? What do I get from that investment? And that is the biggest challenge in the data space, right? Because it's not a simple equation. And so a lot of times we call it the business value, right? Is we have to be creative to say, hey, if we improve this metric, then maybe it is from a person perspective, like it's eliminating waste from a human capital perspective, right? Or it's reducing redundancy in the data landscape, so people aren't searching and trying to find and authenticating whether or not the data is correct, right? So it's much less straightforward, right, than an A plus B equals C, but ultimately it's telling that story about what that investment is and how that will, within 1 to 2 to 3 steps, drive the revenue or drive a reduction in cost in terms of people, in terms of data storage and things of that nature. So again, yes, it is a challenge, but when you derive that data strategy, the key component is business value assessment and what investments, that are needed to be made.
So important. It's all about the why and getting the what's in it for me within your business stakeholders clear and understood, because often the data is, sometimes behind the scenes to get those investments communicated.
Correct. And a lot of times it is around that storytelling, right? It's not, in terms of businesses, hey, I am cutting a purchase order and my business is moving along. Why does this matter to me? And when you break it down and explain, well, when we come to these senior management reviews and the numbers don't align, or they're maybe competing from, one business unit to the next, it's we want to eliminate that confusion when we're in a very expensive meeting like an SMR, right? And we need to eliminate all of that churn and then pretty much exposing, right, the work that goes on behind the scenes, because senior leaders, we deliver reporting, we deliver dashboards, right? But a lot of what's not seen is what happens behind the scenes. So you sometimes have to make that visible to say, hey, this is the human capital that's going into this, right? That is really uncovering that and saying, this is why it's meaningful to you.
Yeah. In fact, I'm going to use this term or this phrase of never let a crisis go to waste, like never let those moments go to waste. And in fact, we're having a moment, from an economy perspective. And, Maggie, you've had an incredibly successful career, at a number of, firms. And I'm sure you've seen this. You've ridden the recession waves or the uncertainty waves. In this dynamic macro environment, how are you using these moments, and how are you also realigning priorities as the business circumstances change?
Yeah, I think organizational agility is paramount, right? It's key. You must be able to pivot according to different economic environments, but also business needs. And they're ever changing, right? They're absolutely ever changing. And it's not set it and forget it anymore. Right. That way is kind of evolved into a constant iteration and learning from what you mentioned, crisis moments and things like that. But from a data professional perspective, is you have to remain relevant. You have to remain plugged in and understanding the whys behind the business needs changing, right? And so ensuring that you're up to date on a quarterly basis at minimum, right? Staying engaged in the company KPIs, right? The company, we call them TTIs, the targets to improve. If those change, if the targets change, or even if the KPI itself changes, you as a data professional, you have to remain plugged into that and understand the why behind it, because ultimately it's data that's driving those decisions, right? And what data are they looking at, and how precise are we in that data-driven decision to make those business objective changes? So it's really staying, again, I use the term relevant, right? Relevancy, staying at the table to understand how the business needs are changing. So staying close to that narrative. But there's a couple of steps also that I want to highlight. Really, it's around organizing yourself for success and making sure that your data team, no matter the size, right, that your data team understands that they have to be agile, right? And they have to be able to upskill, reskill, right? And things of that nature. I would say your organization itself has to be agile, but you have to remain consistent and aligning to the ever-changing business objectives. And then at the lower level, I would say continue chipping away at that inventory, your data products, your data catalog, because ultimately it's just a shift, right? From what data product we may focus on or what data focus we may have, but ultimately you have to continue as a data professional, continue building that catalog, the definitions, understanding that you're aligning and continuing to build that sort of in the background while you're sort of chasing these business initiatives.
That's right. That's smart, because you can't manage the foundation, just by being reactive. There's a very planful part about it, building in that foundation, but there is the ability to be agile to address the moment, the data components that are critical, and having those approaches and right sizing the way you respond is critical to your business of data transformation. So I think that's key. I want to thank you on behalf of CDO Magazine and also Informatica for joining me today and sharing your valuable insights and experiences. I know that so many listening today have learned and are taking away some incredible things that they can apply to their program. And for those of you who are listening, please visit cdomagazine.tech for additional interviews. And thank you so much for listening in. Thanks, Maggie.
Thank you. Appreciate you, Susan. Thank you.